In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Virginia, Elaine Hargrove lived a life that many would describe as comfortable but solitary. At 58, she had been a high school guidance counselor for nearly 3 decades, guiding teenagers through their futures while quietly building her own modest retirement nest egg. Her husband of 32 years, Robert, had passed away from heart complications 5 years earlier. The house on Maple Lane, a 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch, still carried echoes of their shared routines, his coffee mug in the sink, her gardening gloves on the hall table. Elaine never sought remarriage for romance. She missed companionship, yes, but more than that, she missed purpose. Her daughter, Sarah, lived in Seattle with her own family, calling weekly but visiting rarely. Elaine's days had settled into a predictable rhythm: school until 4 p.m., evening walks, occasional book club meetings. Then, in early 2023, she met Victor Reyes at a community center fundraiser for immigrant families. Victor was 34, originally from Bogota, Colombia. He had arrived in the U.S. on a work visa that was expiring. A trained civil engineer, he worked odd jobs, construction supervision, freelance drafting, while quietly searching for stability. He was polite, articulate, and carried himself with a calm confidence that drew people in. At the fundraiser, he spoke about the challenges of starting over in a new country. Elaine listened from the back row, impressed by his gratitude and determination. They talked afterward. Victor mentioned his visa troubles. Elaine shared stories of her late husband and her empty house. Over the next few weeks, coffee turned into dinners, dinners into long conversations on her porch. Victor never pushed, but the topic arose naturally. Marriage could solve his immigration status. A green card through a genuine marriage, not fraud, he emphasized, but a real partnership. Elaine would have company, someone to share bills, travel with, perhaps even help maintain the house. Victor would have legal residency and a path to citizenship. It wasn't love at first sight. It was practicality wrapped in mutual respect. Elaine consulted her attorney and a financial advisor. Victor met with an immigration lawyer. They both understood the rules. The marriage had to be bona fide. No large payments could change hands. No prenup could suggest otherwise. They agreed on a simple arrangement: shared expenses, separate finances for savings, and a commitment to try building a life together. On June 15, 2023, they married in a small civil ceremony at the county courthouse. Only Sarah flew in as witness, along with Victor's cousin from New Jersey. Photos showed Elaine in a pale blue dress, Victor in a charcoal suit, both smiling cautiously. The local paper ran a brief announcement under "Community Weddings." Neighbors sent casseroles. For the first few months, things appeared stable. Victor moved into the guest room upstairs. They decided separate bedrooms made sense at first. He cooked Colombian arepas on weekends. She taught him to prune roses. He helped repaint the garage. She introduced him to her book club. Friends noticed Elaine seemed lighter, more engaged. Victor filed for adjustment of status with USCIS, citing the marriage as evidence of good faith. Elaine signed affidavits, provided joint bank statements, photos. But beneath the surface, small tensions simmered. By late fall 2023, Victor had secured better work, a junior engineer position at a mid-sized firm in Richmond, 45 minutes away. He commuted daily, often returning late. Elaine, still teaching full-time, began to feel the house empty again during the day. She suggested they travel together, perhaps a weekend in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Victor agreed, but work conflicts kept postponing it. Neighbors later recalled subtle changes. Elaine's gardening slowed, the roses grew wild. She attended book club less often. Victor's car was sometimes gone on weekends, client meetings, he told her. Elaine confided in Sarah during phone calls that Victor seemed distracted, more focused on his career advancement than on their shared life. Sarah urged her mother to talk openly. In January 2024, Elaine discovered Victor had opened a separate bank account. He explained it was for work bonuses and savings toward a future house deposit, for both of them, eventually. She accepted it, though unease lingered. Around the same time, Victor began receiving packages addressed to him alone. New suits, electronics, items Elaine never saw used at home. USCIS scheduled their green card interview for May 2024, the standard Stokes interview for recently married couples suspected of fraud. They prepared diligently, memorized schedules, shared photos from holidays, joint utility bills. The officer noted no red flags. Victor's status was approved conditionally in July 2024. A 2-year conditional green card arrived in the mail. Elaine celebrated quietly with a dinner at home. Victor brought flowers. But that night, according to later testimony from Sarah, Elaine called her daughter in tears. "He's changed," she said. "He's here, but he's not really here." Victor, in private conversations with co-workers, later recounted to investigators, expressed frustration. The marriage felt like a transaction he had outgrown. He spoke vaguely of wanting freedom, of starting fresh once the conditions were lifted in 2 years. On June 10, 2024, almost exactly 52 weeks after their wedding, Elaine Hargrove failed to show up for the last day of the school year faculty luncheon. Colleagues called her phone. No answer. Her principal drove to Maple Lane. The front door was unlocked, unusual for Elaine. Inside, the house was tidy but silent. No signs of struggle. Her purse sat on the kitchen counter, keys beside it. Her car remained in the driveway. Victor was at work in Richmond. When called, he said Elaine had texted him that morning, "Running errands, back later." The text was sent at 8:47 a.m. from her phone. He arrived home by 4 p.m., visibly concerned. He called Sarah, then police. Officers arrived at dusk. They noted the unlocked door, the untouched purse. Victor cooperated fully, showing them Elaine's phone, passcode shared willingly. The last outgoing call was to him at 7:12 a.m. No unusual messages. Browser history showed searches for local hiking trails and garden centers. A search of the property revealed nothing alarming. Neighbors reported no strange vehicles or noises. Sarah flew in the next day. She and Victor posted flyers, contacted media. Local news ran the story, "Beloved teacher missing after 52 years of service." Investigators interviewed Victor extensively. He recounted their marriage as practical but caring. He admitted strains, different interests, age gap challenges, but insisted no major fights. He provided alibis. Time-stamped security footage from his office building placed him there from 8:15 a.m. onward. Colleagues confirmed meetings. Sarah, however, pushed for deeper scrutiny. She told detectives about her mother's recent unhappiness, the separate finances, Victor's weekend absences. She pointed out that Elaine had updated her will 6 months earlier, naming Sarah as primary beneficiary but including a small provision for Victor in appreciation of companionship. On June 17, 2024, 1 week after Elaine vanished, a hiker in Shenandoah National Park, about 90 miles west of Willow Creek, found a woman's body near a remote overlook on the Appalachian Trail. The area was known for day hikes but rarely visited midweek. The body lay partially concealed by brush, clothing intact, no obvious trauma visible externally. Identification came quickly via dental records and jewelry. Elaine Hargrove. Cause of death, per the medical examiner, blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with a fall onto rocks below the overlook. Toxicology showed elevated levels of her prescription anti-anxiety medication, not lethal, but enough to impair balance and judgment. The official ruling initially leaned toward accident or suicide. Elaine had hiked occasionally. Perhaps she wandered off-trail, medicated for nerves, and slipped. But inconsistencies emerged. Her car keys were missing from the house, yet her vehicle sat in the driveway. No hiking gear was gone from the garage. Her phone, left at home, had no trail photos or navigation apps open that day. The text to Victor at 8:47 a.m. was sent while he was already at work, but phone records showed it pinged from a tower near the park entrance, not Maple Lane. Investigators re-interviewed Victor. He maintained he never saw Elaine that morning. She was asleep when he left at 7:30. But a neighbor's Ring camera captured Victor's car leaving at 7:28 and returning briefly at 8:35 for only 4 minutes before departing again. Victor claimed he forgot his laptop charger. Further examination of Elaine's medication bottle showed it had been refilled 2 days earlier, yet only a few pills were missing. The prescription label bore fresh fingerprints, Victor's. Detectives subpoenaed financial records. Victor's separate account held $42,000, far more than expected from bonuses. Deposits traced to transfers from Elaine's retirement account, made incrementally over 8 months. Elaine had never mentioned large gifts. Bank surveillance from one transfer showed Victor at the branch, alone. Phone forensics revealed deleted messages between Victor and a coworker, Maria Delgado. The messages, recovered partially, discussed moving forward soon and freedom after the wait. Maria later told investigators Victor had confided the marriage was temporary convenience and that he planned to divorce once permanent residency was secured, but only after the conditional period. A search warrant on the house uncovered a life insurance policy Elaine had quietly increased 6 months prior, $350,000 beneficiary split between Sarah and Victor. Victor had never mentioned it. The turning point came from Sarah. She found an old journal in Elaine's nightstand. Entries from March onward described growing doubt. He leaves early, returns late. I feel like a means to an end. One entry, dated June 8th, confronted him about the money. He promised to explain. I want to believe him. On the morning of June 10th, Elaine's phone showed a 7:45 a.m. call to Victor, unanswered. Then the 8:47 text from the park tower. Investigators theorized. Victor returned home briefly, persuaded Elaine to go for a reconciliatory drive to the mountains. He drove her car, explaining missing keys, used her phone to send the misleading text from the park area, then returned to work in his own vehicle. At the Overlook, a place they had once discussed visiting, an argument escalated. Perhaps Elaine threatened to report the marriage as fraudulent or to cut financial support. In a moment of panic or rage, Victor pushed her, or she fell during a struggle. Either way, he left her there, drove back, and staged the missing person scenario. Victor was arrested on June 25, 2024, charged with second-degree murder and evidence tampering. The trial began in March 2025 in Richmond Circuit Court. Prosecutors presented a circumstantial case: financial motive, opportunity, inconsistencies in alibi, forensic links. No eyewitness, no murder weapon, just gravity and gravity's consequences at a rocky Overlook. Victor testified calmly. He admitted financial strain and marital dissatisfaction, but denied any violence. I cared for her, he said. She was kind. I would never hurt her. His defense highlighted the medication levels, suggesting Elaine, depressed over the faltering marriage, drove herself to the park intending self-harm. Sarah took the stand, voice steady but eyes wet. My mother trusted him. She gave him a home, a future. He took her life instead. After 3 weeks, the jury deliberated 14 hours. Verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. Sentencing: 18 years, with possibility of parole after 12. Victor appealed on grounds of insufficient evidence. The appeal was pending as of early 2026. Elaine's house on Maple Lane was sold. Proceeds went to Sarah, who established a scholarship in her mother's name at the high school. Neighbors planted roses along the fence, hardy varieties that bloom year after year. In immigration court, Victor's conditional green card was revoked. Deportation proceedings followed his conviction. The case became a quiet cautionary tale in Willow Creek, about trust given too freely, about arrangements that blur lines between convenience and commitment, about how a single year can change everything, or end it. Elaine Hargrove sought companionship in her later years. She found, instead, a shadow that followed her to a lonely Overlook. And 52 weeks after saying, I do, she was gone.